Well, I'm trying to record, but Shadow has other ideas. How are you doing? Good, kitty. Oh, man. Alrighty. Well, I kind of lied to you guys. I said a couple of weeks ago that I was on family vacation. I was actually out at Bungie playing Renegades a little bit early. Surprise. Did you know that, kitty? I don't think she knew that. Yeah, thank you all for putting me in this position, watching my videos, and being such an amazing community where I get the opportunity to go do cool stuff like this. That's awesome. Of course, thank you to Bungie as well for flying me out, putting me in a hotel, allowing me to not only like play the new content, but record it and then talk to you all and give my honest thoughts on it. And I think that is so important right now. We're at a time, we're in a Destiny moment of all time, that is for sure. The last 4 or 5 months have been pretty dismal in the Destiny community. And I think there's a lot of people with a lot of questions, understandably. And I'm going to do my best to give my perspective on some of the answers. Is this campaign, was this DLC expansion, whatever you want to call it, is it better than Edge of Fate? What did Bungie learn from Edge of Fate? And I think like the most important question to answer, and it's a harder one to answer, is does this meaningfully change the core of Destiny going forward? Because it's clearly not sustainable. And so these are all things I want to talk about in this video. We played about 10 hours of Renegades over the course of 2 days. And that's not just purely Renegades, right? Like we're kind of racing against each other. A lot of creators, there's a lot of press there. And we're all trying to find the thing that we're going to make content on. So it's not just like 10 pure hours of just DLC gameplay. It's a culmination of everything, right? We played something like 3 campaign missions, maybe 4. We played the new exotic mission, which is how you get like the Praxic Blade or the lightsaber inspired weapon. That's actually part of the campaign. And I'm going to give a general overview here, but we'll break everything down here in a little bit. We got to play the incredible new activity, the Lawless Frontier. That is easily the part of the DLC I'm most excited for by a lot. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I got to play some of the new Portal stuff. There's a new solo op. They're bringing back Catch Crash and Astral Alignment and, you know, just stuff like that. And then we got to use all the new exotics, most of which are really freaking cool. We got to use a lot of the new gun types. We got to use a lot of the new armor, that sort of thing. I want to start off with a very important but simple question. Is it too much Star Wars? Like, does it still feel like Destiny? Does it feel desperate? You know, these sorts of questions. And I just want to say, like, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. Like, I don't mind Star Wars. I've seen a lot of the movies. I've seen some of the shows. I've played some of the video games. I'm just not like a huge Star Wars guy. I didn't really grow up with it. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. And what made me really excited about what we played, once again, a fraction of the campaign, but what we did play, is it doesn't crutch on Star Wars nostalgia. There are a lot of audio cues and visual elements that are clear callbacks to Star Wars. There are a lot of environmental shots that are definitely references to things that I have seen in some Star Wars movies. There are like narrative beats that hit and you're like, oh, that is a classic Star Wars thing. All of that does happen, but there isn't really a lot of nostalgia holding this DLC up. Or I guess I can say it stands alone, in my opinion, because I don't really have any Star Wars nostalgia, right? I was still enjoying the story beats, which are not all Star Wars, mind you. Like, there are definitely some big beats that are Star Wars inspired, but there's still a very real story going on here with the new Cabal Empire, with the new Dredgen Bale, with the Nine, these sorts of things. And it's all kind of wrapped up in a Star Wars sheen, but it's all very Destiny. And I think that was something I was kind of worried about going into it. And I came out of it feeling pretty good, actually, to be completely honest, which is nice because for all of its faults, Edge of Fate got one thing incredibly right, and that was the narrative. Like, probably my favorite narrative in the history of Destiny. I think a lot of people rate it pretty high as well. Campaign, but the narrative, just so good. And I think that's a high bar to set, like coming out of some of the best narrative we've ever had and then marrying it in an official collaboration with Lucasfilm's games, by the way. Like, this isn't Star Wars inspired. It's an official Star Wars thing coming off of one of the best narratives you've ever had in Destiny. That's a high bar to meet. And at least from the little bit of the campaign and narrative we experienced, I think they have a chance to do it. The cutscenes, incredible. The characters, lots of Eris, lots of Drifter. There's new characters, Honor, who is, I believe, one of the hidden. She's kind of like the light Jedi. Then you have Drudge and Bale, who's definitely like a very, I mean, his voice sounds exactly like Kylo Ren. Dark Jedi. There's a lot of really sick fights between those two in cutscenes and stuff. They're really cool, great story moments. Lots of screen time from Drifter's Ghost, which is really interesting because not really a character we have interacted with in the past, so that's really cool. And one thing that I noticed almost immediately is the missions feel way more fun. And that is for one main reason. There's no ball. It's not just turn into Matter Spark, go through this conduit. Use the void cannon, teleport over here. Use the strand thing and hit these pre-placed platforms. Nothing like that. It is just good old classic Destiny mechanics to move missions forward in a way that feels really good. Especially in the exotic mission, like quite puzzly. And they put the exotic mission in the campaign. This is how you get the Praxic Blade or the lightsaber. And at least on legendary difficulty, it's not, like, it doesn't hold your hand. Like, you have to solve these puzzles, and they're not the easiest things in the world. Like, there are some twists and turns that are hard to navigate. There are some mechanics that you have to figure out yourself. On the easier mode of the campaign, I'm sure it kind of tells you what to do, but on legendary mode, like, you have to figure that out. And honestly, I applaud Bungie for taking that kind of bold move and putting it in the campaign. That's something that I don't think they've ever done before, not that I can think of. But I think it works really well here. The story and your progression to get your Praxic Blade it feels like you're actually going through a trial. It feels really, really awesome. The world building is also just so good, as always, right? There's a ton of new environment spaces, like a ton of new environments. The new social space, Tharsis Junction. It's not the biggest social space in the world. It's probably the size of when they made the Scourge of the Past area like a social space for a little bit. Insurrection Prime's final boss arena. Bigger, a little bigger than that. There's really one main building and then a couple of vendors around the side, right? But it is match made, so you see random people in there. There's a ton to do. There's a mailbox and a vault, and the world building is great because like you actually interact with characters on the ground instead of like in the helm through a holo projector or anything like that. Like it's very similar to Edge of Fate where when the 9 are arguing through the emissaries, like you're there and you're seeing it. And the final thing I want to mention on the story is something that I'm really excited about is I think this did something similar to Forsaken where it really feels like you're the one driving the story forward. Whereas I feel like in a lot of Destiny DLCs, and I felt like this in Edge of Fate, you're just kind of there and stuff is happening around you. With the Renegades, it really felt like, oh, okay, I'm going to go do this and something big is going to happen because I'm going to do that. And I felt that in like every mission that we did. So I think they did a really great job with like player agency and involvement in the story. With this DLC specifically, so far, once again, we played a very small part of the campaign, probably about a third of it. A lot of people are disappointed that there is no destination. And that is true. You know, Edge of Fate had Kepler, and people didn't really like it, and it did just kind of feel like areas of like Titan and the Tangled Shore and maybe like Io like all shoved together and mixed in a weird way. I thought Kepler was fine, but I will say like I did not find myself missing a new destination within Renegades, and there are still plenty of new environments. They're just not in a patrol space. So like every mission that we did was in a unique environment. Whether it's on like a Cabal Imperial themed ship, that looks incredible, like nothing we've ever seen before. All of the activity spaces for the brand new activity, Lawless Frontier, there are 3 new spaces. So they're on Mars, which is supposed to look like Tatooine. They're on Venus, which is supposed to look like Dagobah, and they're on Europa, which is supposed to look like Hoth. Pretty good for not a Star Wars nerd. And they're way bigger. They're way bigger. I thought they were going to be the size of like a Gambit map. They are like 2 patrol bubbles put together. So they are a lot bigger and a lot more complex than you would think in a really good way. It makes for some very fun gameplay. So that was cool. There's a lot of new playable space. They just allocated it to like playable activities in the campaign instead of a patrol zone that like Kepler you never really used anyways, right? Like there's so much work put into Kepler and you will never go back there. So There isn't a destination. Some people might not like that. I think them putting the effort into the actual activities that you're going to be playing a lot felt good, though. So, did want to mention that. Tharsis Junction as a soul space, also pretty cool. I already kind of mentioned it. New enemy types. This is one thing that Edge of Fate did really well. You had the Vex Imps, you had the Fallen Corsairs, new enemy types, and then they kind of like revamped the Fallen a little bit. Like the Captains had Stasis Shields, and the Wretches had Strand Pokey Sticks and stuff. There's nothing really that crazy here. With the 3 new factions, you know, you get new themes for the Fallen. The Pikers have this like sick color scheme. You get Vex with clothes that you have to go kill. And then there is 2 new Cabal factions. You have the Barent Imperium, I think they're called, which are, they kind of look like stormtroopers. And then you have the Totality Division, which is my favorite faction. They are sick. Cabal, red, gold jaws. They look really freaking cool. They're all like the enemy types that you're fighting. There's also like a new shield type. It's called Ablative Armor, and it's so interesting. It kind of looks like Warmind material when you shoot enemies, but you just kind of like overheat the shield. It kind of is like a kinetic shield, but not for like kinetic damage. Just like you do any damage to it and you like overcharge it and then it breaks and then it takes time to rebuild. And it's weak to certain things, but they don't tell you what it's weak to. So I'm pretty sure it's pretty weak to the new blaster weapons, but I'm not really sure. It's like a cool new gameplay mechanic, and they didn't spell out how it works, which I actually really enjoy. But it's weird because it's like, that's not, Bungie doesn't do that. So I don't really know. Like, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like in the future. But the enemies, like, nothing really too crazy new. There's like ATST looking things. They're called behemoths. They're fun to fight. Some boss fights and a few of the missions and stuff like that. But not a lot of new like enemy types, just a lot of really cool looking enemies, which is a different take on it for sure. Activities for post-campaign. This is one of the areas where Edge of Fate failed the hardest, in my opinion. Time Latch missions and the Civ, they were fine, but they weren't pertinent past 200 light. You never had to run them. There was no incentive to run them. I will say the new activity, Lawless Frontiers, is phenomenal. It is designed for you to be running it a ton, and there's a lot of variety in there. It's actually really complex and very deep. There's a lot of new systems and things that you need to know, so I'm actually going to give this activity its own video. But all you need to know for now is that you take jobs for the different factions, you talk to them, you pick which one you align with. Each one has like really cool things that you can do. Like there's specific upgrades that you unlock for your Renegades abilities, which we'll talk about here in a second. They have specific weapons that you focus if you go with them. They have specific cosmetics that they have if you go with them. Really awesome system. The best way, and I mean this sincerely, this is what factions should have been in Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. It's kind of where they were in Destiny 1. It's where they should have been in Destiny 2. They're bringing it back in a big way, and I think there's a ton of potential here. All 3 factions have a lot of individual character and identity. Being able to identify with one, pledge to it, and then go screw up the other factions in actual activities. It's like, oh, I'm going to go kill a bunch of the Vex with clothes. I'm going to steal their stuff, and I'm going to get a ton of reputation with my faction. That is sick. The activities, they're pretty long. It's a series of objectives that you have to do. You can do ones where it's just you doing PvE stuff. You can volunteer to go in and get invaded or invade other people doing stuff. So if I'm in the Cabal faction, Totality Division, and I'm like, I want to mess up anyone doing Vex with clothes stuff, I can invade and stop them from stealing supplies. It's sick. The rewards are really cool. There's a whole dynamic system there. Like I said, I'll talk about it in the video on screen. I'll have it linked down below. But I'm so excited for it in a way that I haven't been for an activity in a very long time, because it feels like they sat down and were like, how do we make like a whole new mini game inside of our game? And it feels great. So it really harkens back to like when Gambit came out with Reckoning, and it was like, you do one, you do the other, and then there's like unique rewards and reward tracks. It's sort of like that. This whole self-isolated set of activities and vendors and reputation and loot, and it just feels great. And it plays into the lore of the universe, which is really cool. Renegades abilities. So there are a set of abilities. They are not like the destination abilities of Kepler. There are a series of 7 abilities that you can use. You hit a special key on your keyboard to activate it. You get to pick 2 of them. Like when you load into an activity, there's a little shanky boy. You talk to him, you pick 2 of your abilities, then you go in and you have those 2 abilities and you get to like pick up charges and stuff as you're running through the activities. Very awesome. You also get to use these in some of the missions. And so it's like things like I get to drop a Cabal drop pod on my enemies and it spawns like an insane amount of ammo. Or I get to use an ATST, or I get a shank that I spawn and then it gives me my super back instantly. Like stuff like that. Very, very powerful stuff. My favorite one is you flip a coin and it just spawns this giant Vex cube on top of the enemies and they're all like blinded and they don't know what's going on. And it's just like a rumble dome. Like you're just bam, and then you're essentially a god inside of this thing. You can't die. None of the enemies know what the heck is going on and you're just beating the heck out of them. Very sick. You get to pick these at will. If you're invading and you die, you can switch them to kind of deal with the team. Like there's a lot of strategy to it. If like a team kills you and you're like, oh, I need to take a different approach. Oh, they have ATSTs. Let me get my own. Then you can switch mid-run. Really sick. And like I said, you get to use them for a lot of the missions too, which is very cool. Way better than the Edge of Fate stuff. The new weapons. Edge of Fate, once again, did pretty well in this category. Brought a lot of new weapon archetypes. This doesn't have as many like new archetypes per se, but there's a whole new subset of weapons called blaster weapons, which they're very similar to third iteration, where you shoot them for a while and then you have to they overheat, so you have to cool them down and then you can shoot. There's like no reloading. These are awesome. There's a sidearm blaster that's like Forerunner. It's going to be a problem in Crucible. It is so easy and so much fun to use. There's a pulse rifle. There's a legendary Sweet Business. There's a heavy sniper rifle. There's a regular sidearm. There's just a ton of these. They're really, really fun. The dungeon exotic called Heirloom is also one of these where it's kind of like a laser or a blaster crossbow. It's Chewbacca's crossbow. It's so sick as well. I don't know if any of these are really going to be meta defining in PvE, but I am pretty excited to play with them because they all feel really good. The lightsaber, unbelievable to use. It's really cool. You get to reflect like all damage. You can hold guard and it like reflects, I think, like supers and stuff too. You can reflect like everything. The amount of customization is crazy. So when you run the mission, you will either get, I believe, a green or a blue crystal for your lightsaber. And then there are a ton of crystals. I can't show them to you, but there are a ton of crystals that you can get by grinding different activities in the expansion. There's a ton. I think there's like 10. There's a ton of them. And then you have so many other parts of this. I think it's easily the most customizable weapon we've ever gotten. And I'm not allowed to talk too much about this customization, but really it comes down to 3 main playstyles with the Praxic Blade. You can do normal light attacks where you just swing it like a normal sword. There are heavy attacks where you kind of throw your lightsaber and it goes around and hits all enemies. And then there's a guard as well, which can pretty much deflect 98% of everything in the game. It is very powerful. And so all of these different mods and forms and cores and stuff like that allow you to build into a specific playstyle. You can always do all 3 of those types of attacks or damage types, but these allow you to really spec into a single one if you desire. And then there's a set of catalysts as well. There's so much. There's a new exotic LMG. It's strand heavy LMG. It's kind of like a heavy healing auto rifle. Like you can heal your teammates with it. It also makes these little nests that spawn threadlings. It's pretty sick. And then you have the blaster crossbow, which is very fun to use as well. The last thing that we did not get to play is the dungeon. I don't know anything except for what you guys know. It's called Equilibrium. It looks like we're taking on a ship in the skies, sort of like a Star Destroyer, I guess. I'm excited for that. You know, the question is a dungeon as good as a raid? That's good. That's up to you. I don't know. I'm hoping the dungeon will be kind of like Vespers, where it has like a lot to do after you beat the dungeon, but we'll have to wait and see. So coming out of Renegades, I have to say I'm feeling very positive about the DLC itself. I'm feeling very good about this kind of span that's like the first 3 or 4 weeks. I think the first week you're playing the campaign, you're doing the exotic mission, you're grinding the lightsaber. That's great. 3 weeks after that, you're leveling up your different syndicates. You're getting all of the exclusive cosmetics. you're grinding out your tier 5s. That feels great. The part that I'm really, really quite worried about is what happens after that. These DLCs last 6 months. You know, in 3 months past this, we will get Shadow and Order, which is kind of like an Ash and Iron thing. Ash and Iron wasn't really anything, to be honest. It wasn't really good. And so I'm quite worried. Like, I think this stuff, the content that I'm talking about here, is phenomenal for the most part, and I'm really excited to play. But when you stop and think about what actually comes with this DLC and how it will affect the whole of Destiny, things start to get a little bit more scaled back in scope. I mean, it's really just the campaign, the Lawless Frontier, the exotic mission, the dungeon, and maybe a couple extra portal activities. We have to wait and see how the different events during this period in time affect Destiny, but you start to see that it's not really giving anything for like the Crucible players or the PvP players of Destiny. There's not really any new strikes. There's nothing that changes the set foundation of the game, and they are going to continue to update it, but it is pretty self-contained in terms of what comes with this DLC, which I know a lot of people might not like very much. So I think once this DLC comes out in December, there will be a very fun period of 2 to 3 to 4 weeks where we're just diving in and experiencing all of this new content. But what happens after 3 or 4 weeks? That still worries me. They're still making changes. They made all these changes to the light leveling system and to the portal. But all this means is we're going to get tier 5 weapons almost immediately from the dungeon, from the new portal activities, from everything. There's no long-term chase. And I think things like events are going to work really well. Like I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to do cool stuff with heavy metal or with Call to Arms. And I'm excited for all of those to come back. But the one main concern I have with Renegades is nothing I really saw gives me a lot of confidence that we will have a ton of reason to play after a month in, starting midway through January. And I think it's up to Bungie to start answering those questions as soon as possible. So, Renegades, I really enjoyed it, even as a huge Star Wars fan. I'm very excited specifically for things like the campaign, the narrative, the new weapon types, and more than anything, I'm so excited for the Lawless Frontier. I think it's going to be very fun to interact with. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them down below. I have a few more videos coming out today, so I'll have those all linked down in the pinned comment down below as well, so make sure you check those out. Love your faces. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe if you're excited for Renegades, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.